Very good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the current affairs classes. I hope you all are doing well. Can anyone please let me know, is the audio and video all clear? Anyone? Let me know about the audio and the visuals as well. So I hope it is all good. Let's begin with the analysis. So today we are going to cover the news from 1st October, right? Let's see what do we have. Just give me a second. All clear? All right. Thank you, Avinash. So in the first category, the ESI Finance and Business News. The first one which we have is regarding GST collections. GST collection in September. So just a second. First is GST collection in September touches 1.73 lakh crores. So Ministry of Finance has collected almost 1.73 lakh crores as the GST revenue, which has declined by 6.5% as compared to that of the same month during the last year. So basically, if you see the September GST tax revenue collection in 2023, from that it has declined by 6.5%. It has declined actually in this month, right? So GST collection of September 2023 was 1.63 lakh crores and August 2024 it is 1.75 lakh crores. So you can just remember that it has declined, and if you can remember this figure will be sufficient, right? Next news says, according to a report by Ask Capital, India is set to become a $1 trillion digital economy by 2028. This is something which you need to remember. Please remember this, right? This figure is important here. So according to a report by Ask Capital, India is set to become $1 trillion of digital economy by 2028. So remember the year, by 2028 it is, and $1 trillion digital economy. If you remember the currency and finance new report classes which we have had, currency and finance report class mein, the theme basically was digital economy, if you remember, right? And in that class as well, we have seen the potential of digital economy globally as well as at the national level. So please remember this, digital economy is the norm of the future. It will not be possible to be bilingual here. You know, otherwise it will take a lot of time to deliver the lecture in both the languages. So please, if we can go up with the same language, it will reduce the time, right? So this is the news. Remember, digital economy, India's potential by 2028. Now reason, because government digital initiatives are continuously being implemented from government side, like UPI, like 5G, new innovations in 5G technology, telecommunications technology. In UPI, if you remember the class on recent MPC committee meetings highlights I have taken, so you must be remembering that the limits per transaction limit of UPI 123, UPI Lite, they have been increased. So these kind of initiatives, they will contribute to make India a digital economy of $1 trillion by 2028. Right? Now next news which you have is revised TDS rates from October 1. So TDS, tax deducted at source, TDS, you all must be knowing what is TDS. TDS rates, they have been revised. You need not remember all the TDS rates of all the transactions which are there. You can just remember the main or important ones, right? I hope you understand what is TDS. So tax deducted at source, like you are paid your salary. So when you are provided with your salary, the TDS is already deducted. At source only it is deducted. And then you have other terminology called as TCS, tax collected at source. So primarily when you go and purchase, say, an item for a huge amount, say you are going to purchase a car, then, and in that case a TCS will be applicable, right? So there are these two things, TDS as well as TCS. I hope you know you have understood what is TDS, right? Tax deducted at source. So you might have heard, like, when you get your salary, ki TDS cut ke haath mein itna income you will get, right? So the final, after all the deductions, what you get, as you call it, right? So now these TDS rates, they have been revised. So let's see on what all sections they have been revised. So just remember the changes. First, if you see, they have been reduced from 5% to 2%. From 5% to 2%. This you have to remember. Broad figures, just try to remember them. So TDS reduced from 5% to 2% under sections 19DA, 194H, 194IB, 94M of Income Tax Act. So there are a lot of clauses under Income Tax Act, and you know that there are certain tax deduction clauses as well under Income Tax Act, right? But you need not remember all of them, just remember the ones which are highlighted and as to what provision do they cater to. Is this clear, right? What provision does these sections they cater to? This much will be sufficient. And just remember that the TDS has been reduced from 5% to 2% across all these sections. Are you getting my point? Right? So let's see, first section is 194DA, which relates to payment in respect of life insurance policy. So this is related to TDS collected from the life insurance companies, right? So section 194DA, payment in respect of life insurance policy. Now, all the IRDAI aspirants, you can remember this section because it can be important, right? Then section 194G, commission, etc. on sale of lottery tickets, whatever commission you get, that caters to section 194G. Then let's talk about 194IB, which is payment of rent by certain individuals or Hindu undivided families. Then you have section 194M, payment of certain sums by certain individuals or Hindu undivided families again. And then section 194H, commission or brokerage. So all these category, the TDS has been reduced from 5% to 2%. Is this clear? Just remember this. All of these categories, TDS has been reduced from 5% to 2%. I hope this is clear. Any doubts so far? Next category, if you see, TDS rate reduction again for e-commerce operators. You see, government is continuously reducing the rates, tax rates, and giving incentives to the e-commerce giants. So again, TDS rate reduction for the e-commerce operators is an initiative to again make or expand the digital economy progress in terms of in case of India. So TDS rate on the e-commerce operators has also been reduced from 1% to 0.1%. So 1% to 0.1%. Remember, it has been reduced from 1% to 0.1%. And section, if you see, 194O deals with the payment of certain sums by e-commerce operators to e-commerce participants. On that, the TDS is levied. It has been reduced from 1% to 0.1%. Will give a boost to e-commerce platforms, right? And the operators. Now, next section which we have is floating rate bonds. floating rate bonds pay, TDS. Again, so TDS will be deducted at 10% rate from specified central and state government bonds, including floating rate bonds. Floating rate bonds on which the interest is not fixed, right? It may depend on the market conditions. So floating rate bonds pay, it will be at 10%, and no TDS will be there if the revenue earned throughout the year is less than 10,000. Remember. Remember that no TDS will be there if the revenue earned throughout the year is less than 10,000. Then if you see securities transaction tax, STT. So on the transaction, on the sale and purchase of these securities on the recognized stock exchanges, tax is levied. So this securities transaction tax has been increased. So they have increased the securities transaction tax on F&O particularly of securities to 0.02% and 0.1% respectively. So please remember, just remember that the securities transaction tax has been increased, and the securities transaction tax on futures and options will be 0.02% and 0.1 respectively. Right? Next category which we have is TDS on sale of immovable property. If you see immovable property, so payment for the sale of immovable property exceeding, if the payment exceeds rupees 50 lakh, must then include a TDS of 1%. So here the condition is that the payment should exceed 50 lakhs. In that case, you will attract a TDS of 1%. Last one, so this is regarding section 194F, which has proposed to be omitted effective from 1st October 2024. So please remember this section is proposed to be omitted. Now, if it is omitted, so becomes important. What does this section deals with? So section 194F relates to payments on account of repurchase of units by mutual fund or unit trust of India. So repurchase of any units, now this will be omitted. If you remember, we have discussed this thing earlier as well. In some of the classes, I don't remember exactly the class and the date, but still we have discussed this provision, that the repurchase of units of by say mutual funds or the unit trust of India will not attract any TDS effectively. So now this section only is proposed to be omitted, 194F. Please remember this section and the provision. I hope all of this is clear, everyone. Floating rate bonds are issued. They can be issued actually by the governments, the financial institutions and corporations, okay? All right, any doubt so far? So the TDS one is clear, all these sections, and remember on which section the TDS is how much, right? So the proposed TDS, and remember the section which is proposed to be omitted as well. Now next news which we have is GNPA. So according to CRISIL, the GNPA ratio for the banking system is set to improve to a decadal best of 2.5% in 24-25. If you have been observing, the GNPA ratio for banks as well as the NBFCs has been on a decline. Yes or no? Right? We have discussed all of them in the FSR report as well. So GNPA ratio is on a decline. Now the CRISIL report says that it will be to its lower best trend in 24-25. So decadal best, in entire decade it will be at 2.5, which will be the lowest ever, right? So 2.5%, remember GNPA, gross NPA. Also, if you see the credit growth in the banking system, it is expected to moderate to 14%. Moderate to 14% from 16% in financial year 2024. Now here two things are to be noted down. First, you see GNPA performing good, okay? And I hope you all remember the difference between GNPA and NNPA. We have discussed them, right? So in the gross NPA, we do not deduct the provisions we have made against the riskier loans, right? But when we calculate the net NPA, we deduct the provisions made by the bank, for example, for the riskier assets, right? This is the broader difference. So we are here talking about the GNPA. Next thing, if you remember the FSR classes, we have discussed one thing, that the divergence between deposit rate, deposit growth, as well as the credit growth is big, right? So we need to fill in this gap. Why? Because if you don't have sufficient deposits to meet your credit growth, then in future you can have a liquidity crisis. Are you getting my point? So now if you see, they are taking steps to increase the liquidity in the banking system, and the credit growth is moderating, so that gap might be contracting now, the gap between deposit growth and the credit growth. Is this clear? Right? So these are certain observations from the news. Now next, what we have is, Finance Ministry has released new guidelines for handling delayed tax refund claims and loss carry forward applications. So Finance Ministry basically has released new guidelines related to two things. First is tax refund claims. Whatever tax refund we claim, whatever the process is, so new guidelines are there. Next, new guidelines are there for the provision of loss carry forward application. Now tax refunds, you all know that there are certain provisions provided under the Income Tax Act only, on the basis of which you can say claim some certain deductions or refunds, tax refunds. Now what are these loss carry forward applications, or what is loss carry forward provision? So loss carry forward provision is actually of several types, but then the basic one, if you try to understand the business loss, for example, the business loss. So in the case of business loss, say this financial year you have incurred a loss of say 30,000, for example, right, in terms of rupees. So as a business, suppose you have incurred a loss of 30,000, now you have to pay say tax on the profit, right? So corporate profit tax. Now what you can do is, if you are filing your returns on time, before time, if you do not delay the time limit, right, in that case you can carry forward that loss. That means say in 23-24 you have incurred this loss of 30,000, that can be carried forward to 24-25. Now suppose in 24-25 you have a profit of 50,000. In 24-25 you have a profit of say 50,000, but now you can reduce your taxable liability by deducting that 30,000 from 50,000. So this is carry forward of losses. Have you understood this, everyone? Tell me, is this clear? So now that 30,000 from the previous accounting year has been carried forward to this accounting year, and reducing your tax liability from say 50,000, you have incurred the profit, you reduce the earlier loss of 30,000, so the actual tax liability comes out to be 20,000 only, right? This is the loss carry forward provision which we have. I hope this is clear. So let's see what are the new guidelines. Under these new guidelines, you have 3-tier system introduced, right? So 3-tier system for processing these applications on the claimed amounts, claim of refunds. Now you have 3 categories here. Remember, if the claim amount is less than or equal to rupees 1 crore, if the claim amount, remember, is less than or equal to 1 crore, then who will have this jurisdiction to deal with the application? So then, in that case, the jurisdiction will lie with the principal commissioner of income tax or commissioners of income tax. They will have the authority to either accept or reject such applications for amounts, claim amounts less than or equal to 1 crore. Remember that. Second category, if the amount is say between 1 to 3 crores, second category, if the amount is between 1 to 3 crores, then the jurisdiction or authority will lie with the chief commissioners of income tax to either accept or reject or to process the application. So chief commissioners of income tax. Above 3 crores, if the claim amount is above 3 crores, then the principal chief commissioners of income tax again will have the jurisdiction. Now, if you see the time limit provided here, so a strict 5-year time limit, remember, please remember that the time limit will be 5 years. They are very much clear into this, that the time limit provided will be 5 years from the end of the assessment year for filing these applications, and it will apply to all applications on or after 1st October. So all applications of such claims from say 1st October or after 1st October will have a strict time period to be settled within 5 years of time limit. This is to ensure that the tax litigations do not pile up in India, because you already have a lot of litigations and then burden on the judicial system, right? Is this clear, everyone? Okay. So this is the thing. Then if you see, so processing time mein authorities are directed to dispose applications within 6 months of receipt. For authorities, if you see, they have to dispose the application within how many months? Within 6 months. So after the assessment year ends, you get a 5-year within which you can file such applications, and once the application is filed, authorities have to dispose of that application within 6 months, remember, of the receipt of application. Then if you have any court related claims, so for refund claims which are arising from any court orders, the period of court proceedings will be excluded from the 5-year limit. So say you have a refund claim which is arising out of a court order. In that case, that 5-year limit will be exempted. This is to be ensured. Is this clear? In this case, the 5-year limit will be excluded, or say this case will be excluded from the 5-year limit. Otherwise, in normal cases, you get a time of 5 years to file in such refund cases or claims from the assessment year, end of the assessment year, right? Next thing, the applications, they must be filed within 6 months of the court order or at the end of the financial year, whichever is earlier. But in this case, when that claim is arising out of any court order, in that case also the applications, they need to be filed within 6 months of the court order. Within 6 months of the court order or the end of the financial year, whichever comes earlier. Whichever comes earlier. I hope this is clear. The new guidelines on the tax refund claims. Also, if you see, this last provision is there, no interest will be admissible, no interest will be acceptable on a belated claim of refunds. So if you claim and if your claim is belated, right, if you do not adhere to the timeline provided here, no interest will be admissible. I hope this is clear. Everyone? Yes? Tell me yes or no quickly. Anyone? Whatever we have discussed so far. So we have a lot of news today, you know. We have to cover them and they are important as well. So please remember all these things. At least remember the 3 slabs and their jurisdictions provided to you. Also remember the timeline of 5 years and 6 months for whichever provision it is applicable as we have discussed. And remember less than 1 crore, 1 to 3 crore, more than 3 crore and their jurisdictions. Everyone, clear? Shall I move ahead? Yes or no? All right, so I'm assuming you have understood this. So moving on to the next news. Next is regarding UPI payments. UPI payments. So UPI value of transactions, they have surpassed rupees 20 lakh crore mark for the 5th consecutive month. So for the 5th consecutive month, the UPI transaction values, they have surpassed 20 lakh crores. Now you see, this is very important. Anything related to UPI is actually important for you. And UPI continuously, the transaction value in terms of value is expanding, right, exponentially. So this is important. Remember, for the 5th consecutive month, it has surpassed this mark of 20 lakh crores. It has also recorded a transaction value of more than 1500 crores in September 2024. And this data has been provided by your NPCI, National Payments Corporation of India. So according to NPCI, this is there. So when it is based on official data, you can write this down into your answers as well while supporting or while writing about UPI. Also, I hope you have gone through the class which I have taken on YouTube only regarding the recent Monetary Policy Committee's meeting key highlights. In that, the additional measures which are there covered in the last section of the class, additional measures taken up by the committee or by the Reserve Bank, UPI limits have been enhanced. They have decided to enhance it. That becomes really important for all the upcoming examinations. So please go through it if you haven't so far, right? So this was the thing. Just remember about the UPI. Then next, what you have is in MSCI Emerging Markets Index, MSCI Emerging Markets Index, August 2024, India's weightage has reached 19.9%. So in the MSCI Emerging Markets Index, you see India is said to be the largest emerging market, right? So MSCI Emerging Market Index mein India's weightage has reached 19.9%. Please remember this, 19.9%. If you don't remember China's weightage, that's okay, but remember India's weightage, right? 19.9% it has reached. Now, what is this MSCI Emerging Markets Index? So, as the name only suggests, the MSCI Emerging Market Index basically tries to gauge the performance of these economies in terms of the emerging market economies, right? So, MSCI, you must be knowing, is the Morgan Stanley Capital International Index. You all must be knowing that. Morgan Stanley Capital International Index. Now, it releases this emerging market index. It is a selection of stocks that is designed to track the financial performance of these key companies in fast growing nations. So basically, it provides you how much speed does these companies have and how much are they going to contribute in these emerging market economies. That's what I told you. So what is this MSCI Emerging Market Index? Is basically tracking these stock performances, tracking the performances of these stocks, and then stocks of what? Stocks of these major companies, key companies of the growing nations, key companies in these fast growing nations, and then tries to assess their financial performances and their contributions in the overall growth. So broadly, if you see, almost 24 such countries is taken into this index. 24 such countries, they are taken into the index, and then they cater or they capture the performances of large as well as mid-cap companies. So large cap companies are also there. Cap refers to capitalization, market capitalization. So companies having large market capitalization are also there. Companies having mid market capitalization are also there. So large cap and mid cap, both kind of companies are tracked over here. Remember, in this India's weightage has reached 19.9%. Some extra information which is again very important. India has become the 6th largest market in MSCI All Country World Investable Market Index. So if you see, according to MSCI All Country World Investable Market Index में India has become 6th largest market. Remember this rank, this is important, 6th largest market. And if you see all of these top 6 countries, so 6th of course is India, then let's see the name of the top 5. So first is US, then Japan, then UK, then Canada, France, and of course 6th is India. So please remember the top countries as well. USA is the first, USA, Japan, UK, Canada, France, and India. Next news which we have is regarding NPCI Bharat Bill Pay. So NPCI Bharat Bill Pay, it has partnered with the pension fund. So PFRDA, Pension Fund Development Authority, now partnered with PFRDA to do what? To integrate the national pension system, the NPS, to integrate the national pension system as biller category on the Bharat Connect platform, which was earlier known as Bharat Bill Payment System. So you must be knowing that the Bharat Connect platform, earlier it was known as Bharat Bill Payment System. Now they have integrated, they have partnered with PFRDA to integrate the NPS on the biller category on Bharat Connect platform. Just go through these facts. Right? So I think we have discussed this news earlier as well. What is NBBL? NBBL, you must be knowing, is a wholly owned subsidiary of NPCI. And this biller category, it will have contributions from your platforms like Bharat Interface for Money, Beam, PhonePe, Mobi, Quick, then you have Kotak Mahindra, all of these. Now they can be, so NPS will be integrated on Bharat Connect platform and they will be integrated with it. Now next news what we have is All India CPI industrial workers for August 2024 had decreased by 0.1 point and stood at 142.6. So All India Consumer Price Index industrial worker. Consumer Price Index industrial worker. So this is CPI catering to the industrial inflation basically, has decreased by 0.1 point. Just remember this, has decreased by 0.1 point. And if you see the year-on-year inflation for the month of August, it is stood at 2.44% as 6.9. So that shows that CPI IW based inflation is contracting or moderating. This is what basically it shows. And you must know this. You should remember this is very important. You get direct questions from these kind of facts. Who compiles this CPI IW? Consumer Price Index Industrial Worker. It is compiled by our Labor Bureau. Remember, Labor Bureau under Ministry of Labor and Employment. And the base year for CPI IW, remember, is 2016. So remember the base year as well, and who compiles this. Remember all of these things. Remember base year 2016 and the Labor Bureau. Now next news. According to the latest data by Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, MOSPI, the employment has rose to 1.84 crore in 22-23 from 1.72 crores. This is highest ever increase in the sector in more than a decade. So India's total estimated employment in manufacturing industries, if you see, showed a robust growth of 7.4% in the fiscal 22-23. And so just remember, the employment has increased, particularly in the manufacturing industries. So employment rose by 1.84 crores, remember this. And there is a robust growth in the manufacturing industries as well of 7.4%. Now, if you see the top states performing in this regard, so the top states which are employing the highest number of persons in the manufacturing category. Also, please remember, we are talking about the manufacturing sector, not the primary or the services sector here, right? So specifically for manufacturing employment contribution, these are the states. First, or the top state tends to be Tamil Nadu, then you have Maharashtra, then you have Gujarat, then UP, and then Karnataka. So please remember them, the top state as contributors to the manufacturing sector employment. Tamil Nadu has topped the list. Please remember, Tamil Nadu. Then second is Maharashtra and third is Gujarat, followed by UP and Karnataka. Then if you see, three states, they have together contributed about 55% of total manufacturing employment in 22-23, so top three. Then main drivers, if you see, of this growth were industries like manufacturing of basic metal. So what is the sectoral contribution? We have looked at the growth in the manufacturing employment. We have seen the top performing states. But in the manufacturing, you have different categories. So in those categories, which category have contributed to this overall growth? So you should remember the sectoral contribution as well. Basic metals. So first important sector under the manufacturing one is basic metals, remember. Then you have basic metal ke alawa, coke and refined petroleum products, right? Then you have food products also contributing, chemical products, motor vehicles. So all of these are the important sectoral contributors to overall rise of manufacturing employment. I hope all of this is clear, everyone. Whatever we have discussed so far, please let me know yes or no. This is clear? Remember the top performing states and the top performing sectors in the manufacturing. Basic metal, petroleum refinery, food products, chemicals, and motor vehicles is also one of the important contributors. Right? Now, this was the thing in the ESI finance and business use category. Now, moving on to the regulatory bodies news. In the regulatory bodies, you have Reserve Bank of India releasing data related to India's international investment position for the June end 2024. What is India's position in terms of international investment? So according to RBI, let's see. The overall international investment position of India, key features and their key provisions and the regions attached. You don't have to remember all of the data, just remember the key reason and the key features And if the figure is there, so the broader figure. Okay, so let's see, the first feature is net claims of non-residents on India. So whatever net claims of non-residents are there on India, they have increased by 6.7 billion US dollars. So they have increased, right? So claims of non-residents on India, they have increased. What is the reason? Higher increase in foreign owned assets in India. So foreign owned assets in India are increasing vis-a-vis in relation to Indian residents overseas financial assets. That means you are paying more, isn't it? So non-residents ownership of financial assets in India is rising, and our financial assets ownership from outside India is less than that of the earlier one. So that's why their claims on India, they have increased. I hope you have understood this. Next is largest contributor to the rise in foreign liabilities. So what has been the largest contributor to the rise in foreign liabilities on part of India is inward direct investments, followed by currency and deposits, loans and trade credit. So these were the largest contributor to the rise in total liabilities on account of India. So remember, the overall liability major contributor is inward investments, credits, deposits, trade credits, loans, etc. Now major factors of rise in Indian residents overseas financial assets. Whatever financial assets we have, they have also increased, although they are less than what they are owning into our nation. But still, Indian residents ownership of financial assets overseas. What is the reason behind the rise? So reserve assets, currency and deposits, loan and direct investment, these are the main contributors. Then if you see ratio of India's international assets to international liabilities, what is the ratio of our international assets to international liabilities? So the ratio has improved. This is important, please remember. This ratio has improved. Ratio of India's international assets to liabilities has improved to 74% from earlier 71. The ratio is improving. That shows that we are moving towards more of assets, right? So this ratio is improving. Then you see the total external liabilities. So share of debt liabilities has been increased marginally during the quarter, and it has stood at 52% in June. So in the total external liabilities which we have, debt liabilities, they are the major contributor. This is the catch. So debt liabilities, major contributor from the to the total external liabilities, almost standing at 52% in June 2024. I hope this is clear, everyone. Right? Then next, what we have is market regulator SEBI has announced 6 measures. Now this is again important. You just have to remember, do not go into much detail, just remember the important things. So SEBI has announced 6 measures to regulate the high risk world of your future and options. So you know F&O are very riskier. You all know that. F&O segment or the futures and options segment is very riskier. So what SEBI has done, SEBI has given you a 6-step framework to get rid of this F&O addiction. Indians are presently very much addicted to F&O. You have seen youth is primarily also engaging in these kind of trading activities. Intraday mein, F&O mein, right? So SEBI has given 6 steps measures. Now let's see what are these measures. So first one you have, here you have list of measures, then you have the description and from when it will be effective. First provision which you have is upfront collection of option premium from options buyers. So this is, to get rid of the addictive F&O segment. So now they will be collecting, they have provided this first measure of collecting upfront from the option premiums from option buyers. So whatever option buyers are there engaged in the activity, there will be an upfront collection on the option premium. This is the description. If you see, this is to mandate the collection of options premium upfront from the option buyers by trading members or clearing member. So clearing member or trading member will be collecting this, and this is mandatory, remember, from the buyer, option buyer. And this upfront margin collection requirement, it shall also include net options premium payable at the client level. So whatever net options premiums are payable at the client level, it will also include upfront margin collection requirement in that case. And it is going to be effective from 1st February 2025. It is going to be effective from 1st February 2025. So at the client level, the net options premium payable, which are, they will also be included for upfront margin collection. And then second category you have is removal of calendar spread treatment on expiry day. Removal of calendar spread treatment on expiry day. So the benefit, the description, if you see, benefit of offsetting positions across different expiries, which you call as calendar spread, you might be knowing, different expiries, which we call as calendar spread. So the benefit of offsetting positions across these different expiries, now it shall not be available on the day of expiry for contracts expiring on that day. Remember, this provision will not be available on the day of expiry. On the day of expiry, it will not be there for all contracts expiring on that day. Now, this provision is going to come on 1st February. Again, 2025. Again, 2025 May, it is going to be there. Right, so please remember, both of them will be implemented from 1st February. Then if you see intraday ke liye, intraday is also very risky, you know that, and a lot of people, they lose money in the intraday. So intraday monitoring of position limits is the next clause. The description, if you see, basically to monitor existing position limits for equity index derivatives, as there is a risk of positions being created beyond permissible limits. So there is a risk that these positions are created beyond permissible limits and huge volumes on expiry day. So this is to monitor that. And stock exchanges then shall consider minimum 4 position snapshots during the day, right? Minimum 4 will be there, but then the number may be decided by the stock exchange. Minimum 4 will be there, remember, but then the numbers may be decided by the stock exchange and is going to be effective from 1st April 2025. Then next is regarding contract size of the index derivatives. It has been increased. So they have increased the minimum contract size for index futures and options from 5 to 10 lakh. Okay. From 5 to 10 lakh present to 15 lakh at the time of its introduction in the market. And the lot size shall be fixed in such a manner that the contract value of the derivative on the day of review is within 15 lakh to 20 lakh. So remember, the minimum contract size from the present 5 to 10 lakh has been increased to 15 lakhs, and the lot size shall be fixed in such a manner that the contract value is within the range of 15 lakh to 20 lakh. It is going to be effective from 20th November 2024. Next is limiting weekly index expiry to one per exchange. So basically to rationalize the index derivatives products offered by exchanges which expire on weekly basis. So in this, the BSE and the NSE, they will have to choose one index derivative product each for the weekly expiry contracts. They will have to choose one such product for weekly expiry. This is also going to be effective from 20th November. And then if you see the last one, increase in tail risk coverage on the day of options expiry. So to increase the tail risk coverage by levying an additional ELM, extreme loss margin of 2% for short options contract. So ELM of 2% will be there for short options contracts. ELM, the extreme loss margin of 2% will be there for short options contract and will be applicable for open short options. Here you have been provided with an example which will help you understand. So for example, if weekly expiry on an index contract is say on 7th of the month and other weekly monthly expiries on the index are say 14th, 21st, 28th, then for all the options contracts expiring on 7th, there will be an additional ELM of 2% on 7th. This is what this provision means. Now these provisions are basically to make the option F&O traders understand that this is riskier and basically to reduce this addiction with F&O segment, which is increasing day by day. This is a bit technical. If I go on explaining all these concepts, it will take a 2-3 hours class to complete the current affairs. That would be too long, right? So I'm assuming you all understand all these terminologies because you have read finance, right? But even if you don't understand, you can inform us. I can say make another video on particularly this information because it will take time otherwise if I go on explaining all of these provisions. So if anyone has a lot of problem understanding in this, then you can let me know. We will see accordingly. But so far I'm assuming that you have understood whatever we have discussed so far, right? But I'm giving you this option. You can let me know if you don't understand any of these, right? Because they are a bit technical. Going in detail into all of these will make this class extend for 2-3 hours at least. So I don't want to do that. So I hope you have understood the thing, right? And please let me know if you don't get these things, if you have any problem in understanding all these provisions. Okay. So next news is India's foreign exchange reserves. They have surged by $2.83 billion. So forex reserves are also constantly rising, if you have been observing. So again, it has increased by $2.83 billion and touched a new lifetime high of $692.29 billion in the week. Okay. So remember, 692.29. Foreign currency assets, if you see, stand at $605.6 billion. Gold reserves, which we have, 63.6 billion. The SDR, special drawing rights. SDR is the unit on the basis of which we can claim from the IMF. So SDR is different altogether. Remember, SDR is not a currency. It is a unit, right? So SDR 18.54 and SDRs, they also reflect your strength into the IMF. And then reserve position in IMF, what we have is $4.4 billion. So this was about the regulatory bodies news. I hope you have understood all these things. Again, I'm telling you, if you don't get anything, you can always let me know. That's why I keep on asking you in between the classes as well, is it clear or not? Because explaining each and everything, sometimes like these complicated things, takes a lot of time. The class might extend to 3 hours in that case. So we can devise a method accordingly, but just let me know, right? Banking news segment, let's see what we have. So SBI chairman has informed the has informed that the SBI is planning to open 600 branches across the country in the current financial year. That is a great news. So it is going to increase your banking penetration and thereby promoting the financial inclusion, will help India achieve its financial inclusion targets. So SBI is planning to open 600 branches. Presently, if you see, as of March 2024, it has a network of 22,542 branches with 65,000 ATMs and 85,000 business correspondents. Next, you have ICICI Bank has introduced a new requirement for complimentary domestic airport launch access for its debit card holders. So all the debit card holders of ICICI Bank, they will have a complimentary domestic airport launch access. So they will have a domestic airport launch access if they are holding ICICI debit card. Will be effective from October 2024 only, and condition is there that the card holder must spend a minimum of rupees 10,000 in the preceding calendar quarter to qualify for such access to the airport launch. You must have spent 10,000 at least in the preceding calendar. This is the condition attached. The next news, let's see. It is regarding Singapore Airlines, which has partnered with SBI Card and has launched 2 co-branded cards in India. So 2 co-branded cards, the KrisFlyer SBI Card and then KrisFlyer SBI Card Apex. These 2 are there, remember their names. If you see the joining and annual renewal fee for the KrisFlyer SBI card, it is 2,999 plus applicable taxes and 9,999 plus applicable taxes for the Apex one. Then you have Bob Card Limited, which is a subsidiary of BOB. Here stands for Bank of Baroda, so that's why the name Bob Card. You have Bob Card Limited, subsidiary of Bank of Baroda, has collaborated with RuPay. It has collaborated with RuPay for what? To introduce a new equated monthly installment service, EMI service on the UPI payments. So you know you are being offered these EMI options on then and now each and every platform and each and every product. So again, BOB Card Limited, a subsidiary of Bank of Baroda, has also collaborated with RuPay to provide EMI service on UPI payments. Now it will allow RuPay Bob Card holders to convert their purchases into EMIs using UPI app or by scanning a QR. So whatever they purchase, they can convert into equated monthly installment. Equated monthly installment mein you can convert it. Then you have the national and state news category. So in the national and state news, first one is Union Minister of Youth Affairs and Sports, Dr. Mansukh Mandavia, led the nationwide coastal and beach cleanliness drive. You know, Swachhata Abhiyan mein you have these cleanliness drives going on. We have discussed them earlier as well. And it was organized at Pobandar, Gujarat, to eliminate the single-use plastic use. And this is being organized under the broader aim of Swachhata Hi Seva campaign, which is running since 17th September till 2nd October under the theme Swabhav Swachhata, Sanskar Swachhata. We have discussed this theme a lot number of times. I hope you remember by now. Next news is Ministry of Home Affairs has released 5,858.6 crores to 14 flood affected states as a central share from the State Disaster Response Fund, right? Then next what we have is Government of India has launched PM Electric Drive Revolution in Innovation Vehicle Enhancement Scheme. So PM E-Drive scheme is there. This is important. PM E-Drive scheme. Basically to promote the rolling out of EVs more into India. onto Indian roads. So PM E-Drive, what is the extension? Prime Minister Electric Drive Revolution in Innovation Vehicle Enhancement. So please remember this. It will be effective within the period or time frame of October 1 to March 31st, 2026. Aim, of course, is to foster the adoption of electric vehicles and setting up of charging infrastructure, because having a plan of rolling out of EVs without having proper charging stations and charging infrastructure is incomplete, right? So having proper charging infrastructure and then the development of EV manufacturing ecosystem in India as well. So we don't have to outsource the products from the other countries and then increase the import bill. So domestic manufacturing of EVs, charging infrastructure, etc. will be the primary focus under this scheme. Remember the effective period 1st October say 31st March. Also, it has superseded the earlier FAME policy, which was the faster adoption and manufacturing of electric vehicle, which was a 3-month electric mobility promotion scheme, which has ended on 30th September. So after that, it will be now effective for the purpose. I hope this is clear. Next, what you have is Niti Aayog has launched maiden state chapter of Women Entrepreneurship Platform in association with the WE Hub and the Telangana government. Right. So this hub, Niti Aayog, you all are very aware, is actively engaged in all these activities, and it has launched its maiden state chapter of Women Entrepreneurship Platform. So when we are talking about women entrepreneurship particularly, so this V Hub, which is Women Entrepreneurs Hub, Women Entrepreneurs Hub comes into place, which is one of its kind or first of its kind women entrepreneurship dedicated hub by a state government. So it belongs to the Telangana government. You must be knowing that, right? This hub will be the nodal agency for all the women entrepreneurship promotion activities in the state. It is going to promote women entrepreneurship in the state of Telangana. Just remember, so remember the partnership. This is in association with Niti Aayog and the V Hub of Telangana government. The next news which we have is Indian Railways has launched pilot project called Rail Rakshak Dal. Remember, Rail Rakshak Dal in the Northern Western Railway Zone. So, Northwestern NWR. Remember this zone, Northwestern Railway Zone, NWR mein. So, this is primarily the Rajasthan and all. So Northwestern Railway Zone NWR mein Rail Rakshak Dal will be there. It is a system which will be promptly responding to train accidents and conduct rescue operations if there is any train accident in that case. Next is Indira Gandhi International Airport, Delhi planning to introduce India's first air train system to provide smooth connectivity between the airport terminals, parking lots and other facilities and reduce the travel time across the airport, ensure the convenience. Within the airport you take a lot of time, right? So to reduce this time of commute across the airports is going to introduce air train system. Air, that means so basically it is going to replace the DTC buses. They are being used to travel across the airport. Now the air travel will be there in place of DTC buses. By 2027 it is going to be rolled out, and the name of this train will be Automated People Mover. Remember, it will be known as automated people mover. It will be connecting, so particularly is going to be rolled out at Indira Gandhi International. So we have selected terminals. It will be there connecting terminal 1, 2, 3, Aerocity and Cargo City at the Indira Gandhi International Airport. We'll have a 4 stations installed structure with it. So 4 stations will be there. And presently you have DTC buses used to travel across airports. It will replace them. So this was about the national news category. Then we have the state news category. So state mein, according to data released by Gujarat government, over 7,200 biogas plants have been set up in Gujarat under Gobar Dhan Yojana. You all must be knowing the Gobar Dhan Yojana. So remember the data please, 7,200 biogas plants have been established in the state of Gujarat under the Gobar Dhan Yojana of Government of India. What is this Gobar Dhan Yojana? The extension, if you see, is galvanizing organic bio-agro resources dhan. So this GOBAR stands for galvanizing organic bio-agro resources dhan. This is basically to transform the bio-waste or bio resources, convert them into resources, right? And then also eliminating the waste disposal. It was launched in 2018 under the Ministry of Jal Shakti. And remember, this is to convert organic waste, like you have kettle dung, right? You have a lot of agricultural waste as well, agricultural residues, scraps you have, and other organic waste. We want to convert them into biogas. Now that would be sustainable as well, and it will help maintain or manage the waste disposal. So this is Gobar Dhan Yojana, remember that. And Gujarat is actively performing well into this, being set up 7,200 biogas gas plants in the states. These biogas plants will be converting the waste into bioresources or biogas. Next, what we have is India's first supercapacitor production unit has been set up by Keltron Component Complex Limited at Kannur, Kerala. Remember, by Keltron Component Complex Limited at Kannur, Kerala. So it has essential infrastructure facilities like dry rooms, production facilities capable of yielding 2,100 capacitors daily, and it is done in collaboration with ISRO. Remember, so what are these supercapacitors? These are basically their capacitors. The capacitance is much higher than the normal capacitors, but they have lower voltage limits. So if you can see, if we talk about these capacitors, they can store up to 100 times more energy. They can store 100 times more energy per unit volume, right? And they have a large number of applications, from automotive to renewable energy to electronics. So these capacitors are very, very important. And if you remember, we have been discussing this news that particularly the energy storage system is continuously in news, be it battery energy storage or any other form of energy storage system. So in the energy storage, to store the energy and to reduce the reliance on the unsustainable means, these kind of initiatives are important. It will have a broad range of application, right from your automotive industry to renewable energy to electronics, etc., etc. Will be, just remember, will be helping in storing 100 times more energy per volume than what we presently have as the electrolytic capacitors. So this plant, remember, has been set up. It will be producing 2,100 capacitors daily. So it is going to add to India's capacity of energy storage. And the plant has been set up at Kannur, Kerala. Just remember this. Now moving ahead with the next news. Maharashtra state government has given approval for acquisition of 250 acres of salt pan land in the northeast of Mumbai to Adani Group's Dharavi Slum Redevelopment Project. Now, this land will be used by Adani Group for what? The use of the land will be to build low cost and affordable housing for residents of the Dharavi. You know that residential facilities, sanitation facilities, basic drinking, clean drinking water facilities, these are certain challenges in the region of Dharavi. So they will be developing low cost and affordable housing facilities for the residents of Dharavi, and they will be relocated from their slums. They will be relocated from their slums. The next news which we have is Prime Minister has virtually inaugurated India's first modern and self-reliant cow shelter. So it is a modern and self-reliant one. Also, a compressed biogas plant in Gwalior, Madhya Pradesh. So just remember the location, Gwalior, MP mein, a compressed biogas plant as well as a modern self-reliant cow shelter has been there. Next, we have the Rotary Bangalore TTK Blood Centers Bangalore Medical Services Trust in association with Karnataka State Blood Transfusion Council. They have launched Rare Blood Donor Program. So this Rare Blood Donor Program, basically the broader reason they have is to support the blood requirements of patients with rare blood groups. Particular. So generally the blood groups which are easily available, they don't have much of a problem, but then the rare blood groups like AB positive, like O positive, O negative, right? So O series and the AB series. So to support the blood groups of patients with rare blood groups, under the program, they are forming a rare blood donor registry, which will be a database of such voluntary donors, which will be accessible by people in need. Then next you have is Prime Minister unveiled the development projects worth of rupees 83,700 crore from Jharkhand. So these development projects are, first is Dharti Aba Janjatiya Gram Utkarsh Abhiyan. Remember, the aim of this project is to ensure comprehensive and holistic development of tribal communities across the country. So from Jharkhand they have been launched, but it is catering to the needs of the entire country's tribal. So remember, this is overall development of the tribal people. The next is Pradhan Mantri Janjati Adivasi Nyay Maha Abhiyan, PM Janman. So first is Dharti Aba Janjatiya Gram Utkarsh Abhiyan. Second is PM Janjati Adivasi Nyay Maha Abhiyan or PM Janman. It will include multiple projects under this scheme, including say construction of more than 1,380 kilometers of roads. Anganwadi centers will be developed, multi-purpose centers, hostels, school hostels will be constructed for catering to the requirement of the tribal people particularly, right? And then other initiatives are also lined up there, like the electrification of over 75,800 households belonging to the PVTGs, and then operationalization of 275 mobile medical units, 500 Anganwadi centers, Vandhan Vikas centers, Kendras will be there, and then piped water facility. All these projects are going to be there to more than 5,550 PVTGs villages. You can just go through all these figures and try to remember them. There is nothing to discuss about this. let's see the next news. So next you have is UP government decided to launch Mukhyamantri Yuva Udyami Vikas Abhiyan scheme. Of course, this is to promote youth entrepreneurship, which will be providing financial help to 1 lakh educated and trained youth in the state each year. Eligibility, the minimum education will be at least, say you have passed class 8, but those who have completed the intermediate or class 12 will be given preference. They must also be trained under government schemes like Vishwakarma Shram Samman Yojana, ODOP, etc. And for micro enterprises and the services sector, loan up to 5 lakh will be provided. It will also promote digital transactions by offering an additional grant of ₹1 per transaction with a maximum benefit of ₹2,000 per year. So such digital transactions by these entrepreneurs, they will also be benefited. Then next what you have is Union Minister of State for Ayush and Health Ministry, Pratap Rao Jadhav, has announced that the National Medical Commission has approved a total of 8 medical colleges in Maharashtra. Not so much important, you can skip this news. Then the Communicable Diseases Control Campaign or the Sanchari Rog Niyantran campaign has started in Uttar Pradesh. So remember this, which state has initiated this campaign? Communicable diseases, which are easily communicable, right? And then they spread easily. So to control those, they have started a campaign to get rid of at least the mosquito-borne diseases, right? Like dengue, malaria, etc. Next, Prime Minister has kick-started the construction of 4 compressed biogas plants by Oil India Limited in Assam. So please remember the locations: Guwahati, Jorhat, Shivsagar and Tinsukia. Biogas plants ka, compressed biogas plants ka construction, it has started. Then in the international news segment, you have Italy and Switzerland. They are set to redraw their border in the Matterhorn peak or Alps of the Alps ranges. The region is basically, the glaciers are melting and the natural landmarks are shifting. So the border must be adjusted accordingly. So remember, 2 countries, Italy and Switzerland, will be there. The border will be going through the Alps ranges, remember, and the peak is Matterhorn peak. Next is India has extended budgetary support to Maldives government for the $50 million treasury bill for another year. So remember, India has extended budgetary support to Maldives government recently, in which SBI has subscribed to $50 million. Then you have Britain becoming the first group of 7 country to abolish all coal-fired power generation after closing its last coal plant. So this is a great news coming out from Britain. Britain has become the first group of 7 country to abolish all the coal-fired power generation plants. Now this is an initiative to reduce the carbon dioxide emission, and by this 142 years of coal power in the country will come to an end by now. It also has a climate target of reaching net zero emissions by 2050 and decarbonize its power sector by 2030. These kind of initiatives, they indicate that it's very close to these targets, right? Next, you have Sri Lanka's inflation rate fell to minus 0.5%, and the first deflation it is there in 39 years. So minus means it is deflationary. That means prices are not picking up, they are going down. That shows Sri Lankan economy is not picking up. There is no growth, no production, and less of employment opportunities, because prices are necessary. Rise in price level up to a certain level is necessary, as you all know, that demand is the driver of economic growth. So if you don't have prices rising, producers will not have incentive to produce their goods and services. In that case, you can see the GDP falling substantially for that economy. So this is not a good sign for Sri Lanka. Although you can maintain the target, but still having a deflationary trend is, for a long time, it is not good for the economy. So then you have the MOUs and mergers and acquisitions. Let's see. So Federal Bank has signed an MOU with the Bhashini to enable vernacular languages support and its AI virtual assistant FEDI. Okay. Bhashini, you all know, we have discussed number of times, is AI powered language translation platform. And this FEDI will be able to respond to queries in 14 different Indian languages. So that is great. Now next you have the CCI, Competition Commission of India, approving acquisition of Bharat Serums and Vaccines Limited by Mankind Pharma Limited. So Mankind Pharma Limited will be acquiring Bharat Serums and Vaccines Limited. The acquisition of 100% stakes will be there by Mankind Pharma. Then next you have Adani Enterprises has emerged as Adani Infrastructure Private Limited and Mundra Solar Technology Limited with Adani New Industries Limited. Sorry, it has merged as Adani Infrastructure Private Limited, or it has merged Adani Infrastructure Private Limited and Mundra Solar Technology Limited, okay, with Adani New Industries. Basically, this merger is to advance its low carbon projects. You know, the Adani group is constantly engaged in such sustainable projects or low carbon projects. So this is again a step in that series. Then next, which we have, is Ministry of Panchayati Raj and Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. They come together to strengthen the grassroots governance and help localize the sustainable development goals. So Gram Panchayat development goals will be there implemented, okay, for the financial year 25-26. In which students will also be and institutions will also be participating, remember, and the coordinating institute will be IIT Delhi. So basically implementing the sustainable development goals or integrating the idea of sustainable development goals with the grassroots level governance, which is Gram Panchayat level. This is the broader idea. And remember, the coordinating institute will be IIT Delhi in this regard. Then next set of news which you have is India and Jamaica exchanged 4 memorandum of understanding in fields of digital public infrastructure, cultural exchange and sports. Also, it has been announced that the road in front of the Jamaica High Commission in New Delhi will be named as Jamaica Marg. So now that road will be known as Jamaica Marg, okay, giving honor to the relations with the country. Then science, tech and defense, let's see what we have. ISRO is aiming to India's maiden mission to Venus in March 2028. We have seen this news earlier. India aims to go to the Venus, as we had the mission over Mars, the MOM mission. So we have a mission to orbit the Venus and then and then to collect the information. So mission over Venus. ISRO is going into preparation. So this mission you see is planned to be launched by March 2028. Will be a 112-day journey to reach the planet. The departure so far is scheduled to be on 29th March 2028 and the arrival on Venus will be again in 2028, July 19. And remember, LVM-3 will be used as the launch vehicle for this purpose. So it has been approved by the cabinet as well with an outlay of 1,236 crores. Then in defense, you have HAL, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, handing over the first AL-31FP aero engine to Indian Air Force at Koraput in Odisha. So remember, this has been acquired by Indian Air Force. Then next you have is ships of the first training squadron, INS Tir, INS Shardul and ICGS Veera. They have arrived the port city of Bandar Abbas in Iran. This is to enhance and strengthen the maritime cooperation between India and Iran. Then you have Indian Army set to conduct the second edition of flagship Chanakya Defense Dialogue. So remember, It will be a second edition of what? Chanakya Defense Dialogue 2024 in collaboration with Center for Land Warfare Studies, or the CLAWS, right? Center for Land Warfare Studies. Yes, Vanshika. 3 days, covering 3 days, will take a lot of time. You see, covering one day at least takes more than 1 hour. So in that case, covering 3 days current affairs will require me to just go through the headings. So I don't think it will be plausible. So let's cover 1 day and 2 days as we are doing, because otherwise it will be not effective and it will not be useful. Because if I go on with discussing all these important news, it will be a lengthy class. And if I go on skipping the important news, then there will be no purpose of having these CA classes, right? So I don't think it is possible to have 3 days classes. Let's go with the momentum which we have right now, and we will see whatever is best possible. All right. So remember, Indian Army is set to conduct the second edition of this Chanakya Defense Dialogue in collaboration with the Land Warfare Studies. It will be held in New Delhi from 24 to 25th October. Then you have, first time Chennai has become a destination for mega celebration of Air Force Day, 8th October. So 8th October celebrated as Air Force Day. Chennai has become the destination. Remember this. Next, you have India will attend the world's largest naval defense trade show. So remember, where is it being held? It is going to be held at Paris from 4th to 7th November 2024. India will also attend this naval defense trade show. It will be held in Paris. Then you have US President approving $567 million defense support for Taiwan to bolster its island military and rising tensions with China. Now this is something related to international geopolitics, right? You know what is going on. So US basically wants to counter the diplomacy or the hard power and soft power diplomacy in Asia. It wants to pose itself as the strongest country in Asia, and constantly trying to extend its military bases in Asia and trying to support such countries like Taiwan, etc., which are in continuous conflict with China, so as to ensure that it becomes more powerful nation, right? We need not discuss this thing in much detail. This is related to international relations. You just remember the fact. Then indices and rankings and report may, let's see. So according to the Ipsos, what worries the world global survey, the global south was most bullish during September 2024. So what worries the global world? Basically, the highest concerns are crime and violence, right? At the first place, the biggest worry at the global level is crime and violence. Second worry is inflation. Third is poverty, then social inequality, then unemployment, then financial political corruption. So please remember the order as well. But what we are optimistic about, or the positive market outlook, which we have, are coming from the countries like Singapore, then Indonesia, then Malaysia, and Singapore, Indonesia, then India, and then Malaysia. So the positive market outlook or the optimistic market, India is at 3 after Singapore and Indonesia. Pessimistic market mein, Peru's market is pessimistic 14%, France, then Hungary, South Korea. So just remember this. India stands at 3rd, so that is good. We are having a good position in terms of positive or optimistic market conditions. Then if you look at the other reports, So you have 7th edition of India Wellness Index 2024 released by ICICI Lombard General Insurance. What are the key findings? Let's see. India Wellness 7th edition is there. Key findings if you see. So corporate financial wellness mein corporate employees 7% drop in financial awareness and 7% decline in influence. Okay. And millennials, if you see, they have seen 6% decline in financial wellness. Mental wellness and concerns on the rise. 80% of Indians report suffering from at least one stress symptom. So this is alarming. Then let's see the other parameters. On awareness of heart conditions. Heart conditions may 89% of Indians are aware of the symptoms associated with heart conditions, but only 25% could accurately identify. So we need to make them more aware and capable of dealing of any such situation, with dealing with any such situation. Then you have social media's growing influence. So 70% of Indians use platforms like Instagram and YouTube, right? So it is great, 75% of influence, then 70% of influence, sorry, not 75, 70%. Wellness trends across regions, you see. So Varanasi and Chandigarh, you should remember this. Varanasi and Chandigarh top the list of cities for overall wellness. So if you see overall categories, not a particular category we are talking about, overall category wellness mein Varanasi and Chandigarh, they have topped the list. Remember. Broadly, the North Zone cities, they lead the country in overall wellness, and then the Tier 1 cities particularly, they continue to show lower financial and mental wellness. So Tier 1 countries, they are witnessing low financial and mental wellness. Then you have, according to Pew Research Center report, US is home to nearly 1/5 of world's international migrants. You all know US is home to a lot of international migrants, and this is the report in that series. The foreign-born population in the US has reached 47.8 million, and particularly if you see the countries Mexico, China as well as India are among the top birthplaces for immigrants residing in US. So Mexico, China and India. Then according to the EU monitor Copernicus, the ocean warming rate has almost doubled. Ocean warming rate has almost doubled since 2005 levels. That is alarming of the climate change situation, right? And also a threat to the coastal areas. The warming rate has nearly doubled, and ocean acidity has also increased 30% since 1985. Now that is not good for the survival of a lot of aquatic species or the ocean biodiversity. So we need to work in this regard. Now next is the books, awards and festivals categories. So in the awards you have Council of Europe awarded its 2024 Rights Prize to Venezuelan opposition figure Maria Corina for her struggle for democracy. So provided to Venezuelan opposition figure Maria Corina by Council of Europe, the Rights Prize 2024. The sports category mein you have Indian cricketer Jasprit Bumrah has topped the ICC Test bowling rankings, okay, after the exceptional performance against Bangladesh in the 2-match test series in September 2024. So Jasprit Bumrah has topped the list. Then in the sports, you have Kho-Kho World Cup going to take place in India in 2025. Remember this is important. Kho-Kho World Cup will be happening in India in 2025. This is announced by Kho-Kho Federation of India and the International Kho-Kho Federation. 24 countries will be participating, 16 men's and 16 women's team will be there. So India will be hosting. Next, 9th edition of ICC Women's T20 World Cup will be started. So it has started from October 3, you know, in Sharjah, UAE. So remember the locations, Sharjah, UAE. An Indian cricketer who led the Indian team, remember the name, who has led the Indian team, Indian cricketer Harmanpreet Kaur has led the Indian team. Then next you have Devanshi bagging gold in women's 25-meter pistol category in ISSF Junior Junior World Championship in Lima, Peru. So remember, Devanshi has clinched gold in women's 25-meter pistol and defeated the Italy's Cristina Magnani. Then if you see Parth Rakesh has won double gold in 10-meter air rifle individual title and 10-meter air rifle men's team title, okay, alongside with Ajay Malik and Abhinav Shaw. Then if you say Gautami Bhanot, Shambhavi, and then Anushka Thakur, they won the junior women's 10-meter air rifle team event. So they all have made India proud. And appointments and conferences categories, appointments mein you have the Bombay Stock Exchange Brokers Forum has appointed Anup Gupta as the chairman. Then you have next Rakesh Makhija assuming the charge of chairman at Castrol India Limited. Then you have Government of India selected 3 external members. Okay, now this is important. 3 external members to reconstitute the Monetary Policy Committee. Now you know that in the Monetary Policy Committee there are 6 members, 3 from the RBI side and 3 from the Government of India side. So this is important, you remember their names. Okay, remember all of their names. So 3 government side members will be Ram Singh from Delhi School of Economics. Then you have Saugata Bhattacharya, an economist. Then you have Nagesh Kumar, Director and Chief Executive at Institute of Studies in Industrial Development, right? And remember, reappointment of such external members is not allowed according to the RBI Act. Remember that. So these are the 3 members. Please remember their name and remember that these external members are not eligible for reappointment. So Ram Singh, then Saugata Bhattacharya, and then Nagesh Kumar. Next 3 next appointments. So you have Surgeon Vice Admiral Aarti Sareen has become the first women officer to take over as DG of Armed Forces Medical Services. Remember, this is again important. So Surgeon Vice Admiral Aarti Sareen will be first women officer to take over as DG of Armed Forces Medical Services. Then next, then you have Claudia Sheinbaum was sworn as the first female president of Mexico. Remember that. Then former Prime Minister of Netherlands, Mark Rutte, took over as the 14th Secretary General of North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So NATO is an important organization, you all know, we have discussed. NATO was established in 1949, headquartered at Brussels, Belgium, having total members of 32. Newest member, remember, is Sweden. And 2024 NATO summit was held at Washington, DC. 2025 NATO summit will be held at The Hague, Netherlands. So please remember these features of NATO since it is news. And NATO was primarily, you know, established to counter the influence of Soviet Union. You all know that. Military alliance, basically it is. Then in committees, you have RBI has published a report of the Committee on MIBOR benchmark. Mumbai Interbank Offered Rate. So committee was set up under the chairmanship of R. Subramanian. Remember who has chaired the committee? R. Subramanian. To review the rupee interest rate benchmarks in the country, especially the usage of Mumbai Interbank outright rate, to examine the need for transition to new benchmarks. Now, what was the suggestion? First suggestion, introduction of new benchmarks for the overnight money market. Now, this MIBOR, you know, Mumbai Interbank outright rate has replaced the erstwhile Mumbai Interbank offered rate. These are the rates, these are the benchmarks used for the overnight money market or the call money market, basically the interbank transaction, where one bank borrows or lends to the other bank for 24 hours. So overnight market or particularly the call money market. So this committee under the chairmanship of R. Subramanian has suggested that these benchmarks should be new introduced benchmarks should be there, and MIBOR should be calculated on first 3 hours of transaction instead of the first hour. So MIBOR for such transaction should be calculated at first 3 hours of transactions, remember. This will increase the reliability of call money transactions. Also, the other financial benchmarks in India, they should develop a benchmark based on the secured money market, like market repo, tripartite repo, which will be known as secured overnight rupee rate. And it should be calculated based on the first 3 hours of trade in the repo and TREP markets. So they have recommended for secured overnight rupee market, and then they have said that the fixed income money market and the Derivatives Association of India. So basically your FIMDA should popularize the use of this new benchmark, and then Clearing Corporation of India could also develop the necessary trading infrastructure for such instruments. So new benchmarks they have suggested. So remember this secured overnight rupee rate, which will be based on secured money market trading activities like market repo and tripartite repo. It will be calculated on 3 first hours of trade in the repo and trep markets. Remember this. Also, the CCIL should expand electronic trading facilities for large bouquet of interest rate derivative products, and non-resident should also be granted gradual access to onshore interest rate derivatives for the purpose of hedging. These are the recommendations of this committee. Just remember all of them. Then in obituaries and important days, you have John Amos, who has starred as the family patriarch, has died, okay, and has also earned an Emmy nomination for his role. Then important days, we have International Day of Older Persons, October 1st, okay. So October 1st is celebrated as International Day of Older Persons, remember. For 2024, the theme of this International Day of Older Persons is Aging with Dignity. Remember this, Aging with Dignity, importance of strengthening care and support systems for older persons worldwide. Then you have National Voluntary Blood Donation Day, again on October 1, to raise the awareness of blood donation and voluntary blood donation. Then you have International Coffee Day on October 1. So 3 days are there. Older Persons Day, then you have Voluntary Blood Donation Day, and then you have International Coffee Day on October 1. So this year 2024, the theme is Coffee, Your Daily Ritual, Our Shared Journey. This is the theme for 2024. So that was it for the current affairs classes from 1st October. There's a lot of news which we have today, which we have covered today. You please go through all these news. Whatever discussion was required, I've tried to indulge into the discussions. But even then, if you don't understand some of the things, you can always ask me in the classes. Thank you so much. I hope this was useful for you. And thank you for being focused and interactive for such a long period of time. I hope this is useful for you. I'll see you in the next session of CA. Till then, have a great day. Thank you so much.